just shameful. Adults using kids to commit burglaries, and it's all caught on camera. Several businesses say they got hit by an organized crime ring.
Yeah, so these large groups basically.
So shoplifting in New York, that's not exactly new, but what is new are the bizarre methods some thieves are now using to steal from places like Macy's. And while in-store security at a place like this is nothing to scoff at, a theft ring from Brooklyn was just busted using one of the worst shoplifting tactics ever imagined: stealing with the help of children.
Deputies say the couple is using the infant as well as a towel to conceal items before placing them into a bag that the mother is carrying.
Yeah, so these large groups basically come in, distract small business employees, then they make off with all the goods.
It's like a organized family, crime using children to make money for themselves is alarming.
That's definitely a scary thing to think about.
We found hundreds of boxes of stolen items. Approximately $212,000 of the alleged stolen merchandise came from Macy's.
From 2017 to 2023, larceny offenses rose by more than 50% in the city.
This surveillance video shows a man on a mission. He walks into Victoria's Secret. He helps himself to the items on a counter, then walks right out without paying.
They're coming in and they're just ripping through the entire counter. And so we're trying to keep things safe.
Investigators say this couple not only used their children to help conceal and, in fact, take some of the items that were shoplifted, they also took items that did not necessarily benefit their family.
So 3 people from Brooklyn were just caught stealing from Macy's using children. But what nobody's talking about is that retail theft in New York is so rampant with so little being done to stop it, we shouldn't be surprised that the methods employed by criminals are escalating. Which wasn't supposed to happen, because earlier this year, New York passed a $45 million anti-theft legislation package aimed at stopping shoplifting. But although these laws do allow for the arrest of violent shoplifters who have altercations with store employees, it does nothing to criminalize the epidemic of peaceful shoplifting that continues to shut down businesses all over town, which is why the stores that remain open keep upping their security and the thieves keep changing their tactics. Now entering department stores masquerading as a happy group of shoppers who aren't actually intent on buying anything. But if you think that's bad, we've got another problem that might be even worse. Because recently a surge in robberies have been taking place at several major retail chains, which threaten a new and badly needed business expansion in one of Manhattan's most underserved communities. Which brings us to the real reason why shoplifting is such a disaster for New York City. Not only is it forcing thieves to get more creative in how they go about stealing, as well as jacking up the prices of goods on struggling New York families, but it also creates a persistent climate of fear and intimidation in businesses throughout the city, which puts the lives of store associates, many of whom are also in tough economic situations themselves, in danger. And it's now gotten so bad that it's also putting the futures of children in danger as well. So Macy's is one of those stores that will always be a magnet for shoplifters. And that's because this massive chain not only sells just about every type and style of clothing on the planet, they also stock so many different brands that the store is a goldmine for would-be crooks looking to steal and resell certain things. Think of it as a one-stop shop for just about everybody, even the bad guys. But with enhanced in-store security, criminals are now resorting to the worst of tactics to steal from places like this.
Deputies say the couple is using the infant as well as a towel to conceal items before placing them into a bag that the mother is carrying. Deputies say store surveillance shows the couple is definitely using the children to conceal stolen merchandise.
Did you hear that last part? Definitely using the children to conceal merchandise. And that's what investigators say was happening when this crew from Brooklyn, 2 families with a whole bunch of kids with them, were stealing. Apparently the children were also active participants in the theft. And police say they placed 67 different items inside personal bags and inside strollers before attempting to leave the store without making a purchase. The families are all from Brooklyn, and the Macy's they targeted was actually located in Long Island. And these parents, they could be looking at serious jail time if these charges stick. Not only are they being charged with retail theft, but because their kids are involved, child endangerment as well. The children have since been moved to a relative's location, but you might be asking yourself, why are thieves going through the trouble to put themselves at even greater risk if they get caught? Why would they want to do something that makes shoplifting much more than the misdemeanor New York City has decriminalized it to, which is why our shoplifting problem is so bad in the first place? Well, that's because when this tactic works, apparently they can steal a lot of stuff.
It's like an organized family, crime using children to make money for themselves. The women would sort of talk to them or ask questions and sort of distract while the kids were like ripping packages open and
So apparently the reason thieves think this is a successful tactic to use is because they don't look like your typical shoplifters. Here they are, they enter a store, they're a big family, they're fairly conspicuous. Store security doesn't see some guy wearing a mask, carrying a burlap sack walk in, so they're gonna be treated differently. They can enter the store, they can try stuff on, they have a lot of autonomy when they move around as a big group, and because they're not perceived as a threat, they've got the ability to make off with way more stuff than somebody whose security is actively monitoring. Plus, with a stroller and all the other stuff you need to take care of your kids when you're out and about, they've got extra bags. They've got something that's kind of like a shopping cart almost that they could fill up with merchandise and then just roll right out of the store. They may even have other shopping bags from other stores with them. It might look like they're on a shopping trip, but really it's a shoplifting trip. And psychologically, parents are perceived as being trustworthy and kind because they've got children with them and those children rely on them for their provision. And a mom and dad who look like they're on an outing with their kids aren't going to be treated the same way as a football player-sized individual who's covered from head to toe in masks, wearing sunglasses, carrying a massive bag that's obviously not a store bag that he intends to fill up with stuff from the store. But there's another thing. I've got two little kids and we've gone shopping with them before and they've picked stuff up and tried to walk out of the store with it. Now, of course we stopped our kids and put those items back on the shelf. Of course we told them that stealing is wrong and you don't walk out of a store without paying for something, but perhaps that's what's clued these parents into this being a business opportunity, or rather an opportunity for criminality.
But Young tells me the worst part about this crime is not about the money.
As a parent, that bothers me, to raise children to be criminals and not really give them a chance to.
Yet we keep hearing from criminal sympathizers, not just in New York, but all over the country, that shoplifting is a victimless crime. But look at how many victims we have here. The store owner is a victim, and the families of those shoplifters, they're victims, even if the kids aren't brought with them when they go into a store like this and start stealing. It hurts everybody. Because if you go to school and you come home and mom and dad have garbage bags full of new stuff that they're sorting through on your living room floor, you're gonna wonder where it all came from, and eventually you're gonna find out they didn't pay for it. And you're gonna grow up wearing clothing and merchandise that you know was stolen. In your mind, a connection may be made between crime and provision for your material needs. That's a bad thing, and that sets somebody on the wrong path at a very young age, and it might turn them into a career criminal without them even being in a position to make up their own mind about what's right and what's wrong, because they were taught something that was wrong from day one. And the idea that in America we've got children growing up learning that a life of crime is the only way to get by and survive is just terrible. That's simply not true. Yet not only is this a city that sympathizes with and protects its criminals, we've now got parents potentially turning their children into criminals. And this essentially generationalizes our shoplifting epidemic. But as you're about to see, stealing isn't something people do because they have to eat. Instead, it's something they do because they're earning money. Much more money than they could doing legal work. And in this city, nothing is being done to stop these criminal entrepreneurs who are targeting virtually every business in town. So here we have a bank of stores along one of Manhattan's major cross streets, 34th Street, and it's kind of like a gigantic strip mall, which includes the Macy's here at 34th Street itself. And as you can imagine, strip malls in cities that don't punish retail theft are magnets for criminals, which is a huge problem for another one of Manhattan's cross streets that's been built up just like this, but is now experiencing unprecedented levels of shoplifting.
As larger retailers set up shop in Harlem, they've become a hot spot for shoplifters. The NYPD is constantly working with the community to help. A Pix 11 walked the beat along 125th Street today with one NYPD.
So when you go to 125th, which is where this bank of stores is located, it feels and looks very similar to what you see right here. You've got lots of chains, you've got Target, you've got many of the same businesses you'd have down here actually, selling the exact same stuff. Yet the problem is the NYPD is so short-staffed, you can always find police down here by Macy's, yet up at 125th Street, you don't have the same same attention to public safety, apparently. Well, you do now, but the police are at Victoria's Secret after it's been robbed, not beforehand. And it looks like criminals have apparently been taking advantage of a major lapse in security in the neighborhood, which is taking place coincidentally as crime is surging in places like Central Park, where it looks like half the police cars in the city have been relocated to. And those are resources which normally would be spread throughout the city. And it's particularly sad that this is happening in Harlem, where you've got the Apollo Theater and a whole bunch of history. 125th is essentially Main Street in Harlem, just like 34th Street here is Main Street in Midtown. And all the recent business development you see up here is in jeopardy because the city isn't protecting the neighborhood.
This surveillance video obtained by Pix 11 News shows a man on a mission. He walks into Victoria's Secret on 125th Street in Harlem with a large bag, filling it with fragrances and other items, then walks right out without paying. Shoplifting.
You know, this is exactly the same type of crime that would be happening down here if the police presence in this neighborhood weren't so dense. It's a crime of opportunity, and criminals see an opportunity because the neighborhood is just underserved. On top of that, even if these people do get arrested after they steal stuff, this city does everything it can to protect criminals. Those charges will likely be dismissed or dropped. Either way, there won't be any jail time. It's just a misdemeanor if the amount of theft is under $1,000. And before anyone says that this guy stealing armfuls of fragrances from Victoria's Secret is just trying to eat, that's not food. You can't eat that stuff. It has to be resold. And these are high-end products that can be resold either physically to another business in New York, which certain businesses here have been involved with, or online through an Amazon or eBay storefront. But even though the city does a great job shutting down businesses that benefit from retail theft when they find them, prosecuting and jailing the owners of such operations who are making millions, they never do anything to shut down the infrastructure that allows businesses like this to operate. Look, we've got tons of criminals roaming the streets that steal stuff and get arrested all the time, yet they don't ever seem to go to jail, which to many people perfectly explains why we've got a retail theft problem in this city that just will not go away and is now threatening a neighborhood that just received a ton of investment.
This man held up two grocery stores, also on 125th Street, and threatened security guards with a weapon. The NYPD already sent out more resources to help businesses, including more surveillance cameras.
More security cameras. That's a great idea, except all they're going to be used for is taking the photos of people who go into stores and steal things. They're not actually going to be used to stop crime. We're just going to know that the crime happened and what the person's mask looked like. Now you see this guy here? He's apparently been arrested for shoplifting 119 times, and he was even arrested 3 times this past June. His rap sheet includes 15 felonies, 80 misdemeanors, and 20 violations, yet he's still out there. Yet after his most recent arrest on June 12th for stealing things from Target, he was released because the amount he stole wasn't above $1,000. And you gotta ask yourself, people like this, are they really stealing to feed their family? Is this really something they're just gonna do once or twice until they can get back on their feet and then transition into living a normal life? Absolutely not. These are career criminals. These are the people who find holes in law enforcement and then go start robbing places. But he's not alone. Look at this guy right here. 54 different arrests. That's crazy. But this individual, the majority of his arrest happened after 2020 when the city enacted its bail reform laws that decriminalized many non-violent offenses, which allows these criminals who get caught shoplifting to walk free. And although the idea of bail reform and decriminalizing certain types of crime was to give people the chance to reform their lives after learning a lesson without having to go to jail, what kind of lesson is somebody going to learn the 55th time they're arrested if they didn't learn it the other 54 times they were arrested? And how does giving them a 55th second chance help society?
These are crimes of opportunity. They come here, the problem is the place hires so much that it does attract sometimes criminal shop too, right?
But nothing beats walking the streets, having a police presence. For Deputy Commissioner of Public Information Tariq Shepard, it's something he tells us he's used to doing.
I like to get out.
So the police chief is right. This is a crime of opportunity, but how are criminals getting this opportunity? Well, the city is providing it to them by letting them out after they get caught. And unless New York City wants to get serious about retail theft, a lot of these empty storefronts are going to stay empty, and we're going to have empty storefronts in areas of town that just got new storefronts. But this isn't the fault of police. They're the ones setting up the security cameras. They're the ones out there making the arrests. But it looks like that fight is continuing, not just out here on the street, but also inside the courtrooms where these people are brought before the law to have sentences handed down upon them. Those sentences are light. Those charges, they get downgraded by prosecutors who are essentially undermining the work of police by giving these criminals a free